Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Financial advisor Scott Beasley knows time spent with family is everything. As a founder of Beasley Wealth Management, his mission is to give clients the freedom to enjoy time with family without the burden of financial concerns. A local of Lawrenceburg, Scott deeply values building relationships with clients, ensuring they make informed decisions concerning asset management, tax planning, and retirement planning. Offering a free initial consultation, Beasley Wealth Management helps clients pursue their aspirations with confidence.
Banking made simple and convenient. At Builtwell Bank, we're here for you. Whether you're making a milestone purchase or saving for retirement, our dedicated financial team will walk with you every step of the way because we care. From personal banking accounts to making sure your business and commercial needs are met, we'll make sure you have a dedicated Builtwell banker that understands your unique needs and goals. Serving Lawrenceburg and Summertown. Come see us today. Member FDIC.
At C&B Linen, fast, friendly, and reliable service is our promise to you. Because you're not just a customer, you're family. From multi-use linen to branded floor coverings and a complete range of cleaning supplies, C&B Linen is here to make sure you have everything you need. From our high-quality products to our fast, friendly, and reliable service, you'll experience the difference with C&B Linen. Because you're not just a client, you're part of our family. You'll be winning with C&B Linen.
Got a dent, a ding, a scratch, or a bent fender? Major or minor, Car Country Collision Center in Leoma can fix you up. Car Country works with all insurance carriers, gives free estimates, can work on foreign and domestic vehicles, and has experience you can trust. They've been in business since 1990. Unfortunately, accidents happen, but you can get your car back on the road with as little hassle as possible with the help of Car Country. Call 931-852-4708 or stop by at 2567 Highway 43 South in Leoma.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody in here to the X Sports Network for this Thursday edition of the Mark My Words Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and on today's episode, guys, we got region tournaments to talk about in baseball, softball. We've got more district tournaments to talk about. Not a whole lot for the Major League update today, and we actually do have a pretty good bit of college sports stuff to talk about. And first thing, apology for how long the episode was on Tuesday. It got me rambling about college basketball, and I went and talked for 90 minutes, so we'll try to keep it to around a half hour to 45 minutes today, just to get you the base of the information you need to know and try not to go off on too many tangents. So the Region 5 AA baseball tournament will be starting up tomorrow. The district, starting with game number 1, will be the District 9 number 1 seed in Cascade, taking on the District 10 number 2 seed in Lewis County. That game will be at 4:30 at Riverside High School in Parsons. Game number 2, it will be here on the X Sports Network. We will have District 10 number 1 Riverside taking on District 9 number 2 in Summertown. That game will be at 7 p.m. at Riverside High School. That game will be on the X Sports Network. As for after that, Obviously, we're going to keep up with Summertown. Don't think we'll have all the games from that region tournament streamed here on the X Sports Network. But again, if Summertown's playing in it, then we will have that one here on the X Sports Network. If they win, they will play the next day at 12. If they lose, they will play the next day at 3. The thing with the region tournament, it is double elimination, but the only way you can win the region championship game is if you win game number 1, so it is going to be very crucial for Summertown to try to pick up a win over Riverside, and it would at least put them in a favorable situation when it comes to the region championship game. Again, if you lose, you'll play at 3 o'clock the next day. You win that game, you'll play in the region consolation game at 6, so 2 long days of baseball. Unless Summertown is obviously able to, and what we hope is just go over there, pick up a win on Friday night, pick up a win Saturday morning. They're going on to host the sub-state, and would be a very favorable matchup there. For the Region 6 AAA tournament in baseball, obviously we'll have that one here at Tom Cruise Field here in Lawrenceburg, and we will have all these games on the X Sports Network. Same time slots as the one before, with kind of the whole times, situations, that and the other. So game 1 will be the District 11 number 1 seed Battle Creek taking on District 12 number 2 seed in Franklin County. That game will be at 4:30 on Friday at Tom Cruise Field. Again, we'll have that here on the X Sports Network. And for game number 2 of the day will be District 12 number 1 and the home team, the Lawrence County Wildcats, 25-8 on the year, taking on the District 11 number 2 seed Creekwood, 17-16 on the year. We're kind of in the middle of the pack when it came to their district play throughout the regular season, but we're able to upset Montgomery Central in the district tournament. So props to Creekwood, but definitely no easy task when you're taking on Lawrence County. Again, that game will be at 7 on Tom Cruise Field here on the X Sports Network. And again, the championship game will be the winners of those 2 games taking place the next day at 12. The loser of games 1 and 2 will take place at 3. And then the winner of that game 4, which is the game 1 and 2 losers, will take on the loser of game 3, which is that region championship game, in a region consolation game at 6. So, a lot of games to get played and not a whole lot of time to do it. As for the softball side of things, hey, big win for the Summertown Lady Eagles, taking down the district number 1 seed in Community on Tuesday night behind a 5-run top half of the 7th inning that was able to push Summertown to a 9-7 win. The district championship game was supposed to be today, but obviously the entire state was just pretty much rained out yesterday, so everything got pushed back a day. So the sort of last elimination game between Forest and Community will be today, and Summertown will take on the winner of that game on Friday. And I believe, since it is a higher seed host, that if Forest is able to upset Community, then Summertown will be home against Forest. But if Community is able to take down Forest, then Summertown will have to make the trip back to Community. But hey, they're 1-1 there this season, the last one being that win. And I think it's actually really kind of interesting, this matchup between these 2 teams, because I look at it the same way I look at other teams in our area that have 2 very strong teams in their district. Is, yeah, Summertown may win a couple, Community may win a couple, but it helps both of these teams monumentally, because we know they're both going to be state tournament hopefuls and probably even state championship hopefuls, I would say. Obviously, knowing the kind of mantra behind these 2 programs, it is not state championship or bust, but obviously that's your expectations going in. And the matchups between themselves are only making them better, which makes it even tougher for anybody else trying to take them down, because by the time they get to the state tournament, if both of them make it, there's a chance that they will have played each other 4, maybe 5 times. So, and again, hopefully they won't take each other out. You'd love to see both of those teams make it to the state tournament. But a huge win for Summertown. The offense was able to get them that lift they needed. And for Community, maybe a time to go through a secondary pitcher against the Lady Eagles. They've now seen Prince 3 times now on the season, and they've continued to hit her better and better and better. Mainly it was in the 7th inning last night, or on Tuesday night. But do you trust her again, or do you try to throw a second pitcher that maybe Summertown hasn't seen? But obviously, you have to play that by ear with matchups going on as we go forward with the postseason. Lawrence County Lady Cats in a similar spot with Summertown, and they're going to have to wait. So with Lawrence County's win on Monday night over Franklin County, they were off, obviously, until tomorrow night, where they will either take on Franklin County for a fourth time this season, or the district number 5 seed in Tullahoma that has scored 32 runs so far in their 3 games up to this point in their tournament. And again, Franklin County and Tullahoma will be taking place tonight. Let's see if we can get a time on that one. Also not sure of a location. I would assume that it's going to be at Franklin County. I believe they are the higher seed of the two. Unless they have already played the game. So it is tonight at 6 o'clock. Obviously, the winner will take on Lawrence County the next night. I believe at 5:30 is the set time, but obviously that is subject to change. So we'll turn things over, I guess just a final look through, obviously, of the high school sports that we got going on. So the Region 5 tournament for baseball going on at Riverside High School, and a bit of a drive for some people, but not a terrible drive for the folks there in Summertown. Heck of a drive there for Cascade, though, having to make the drive to Riverside over in Parsons. Lawrence County will be at home with their whole tournament, obviously here at Tom Cruise Field. Summertown, right now in the district championship, will have to get beaten twice. I've already advanced to the region tournament with that win over Community. And Lawrence County kind of in a similar situation now where they're awaiting their fate with who they're going to take on in the championship game. Both of them need to be beaten twice, but they're also both advanced now to the region tournament. So we've got a lot of teams still left playing. Now on to our Major League start. Now, Ryan Weathers was slated to start today against the Texas Ranger in a game that would already be underway. It was first pitch like 11:30 local time. I believe that was what I said. But was scratched earlier yesterday due to an illness. So Paul Blackburn did get the start and I believe an opener role. And again, Weathers, when talking to one of the Yankees reporters for MLB, Brian Hoke, said that just wasn't feeling good. He said he pitched, referring to the start against Baltimore last Saturday, and said that he pitched and then went home and threw his guts out for several hours. Said he had a fever up to 102, so just wasn't feeling great. So obviously Hope. He said, I thought I just had food poisoning, but woke up the next day and was running 102-degree temp. I was pretty much just bedridden for a couple of days. So obviously hope that Weathers is healthy and okay, and his next start has been moved to Monday. And looking at the Yankees schedule, if I can pull that up real quick. Monday they will be at in Baltimore to take on the Orioles, who Ryan had a pretty good start against the last time, and considering he was sick, you like him to have a little bit of the edge in going into that one. So Weathers' next start is slated for Monday, May 11th at Baltimore. So he's got a bit of time off, a couple of days, as the Yankees look to close out that series against the Rangers, then hit the road to Milwaukee. So a bit of a short Major League update today. I had how the Rangers were against left-handed pitching, the different guys in their matchups over their career with Ryan, and kind of interesting because there were going to be 5 guys in this Rangers lineup today that Ryan had never faced. You've got a couple of guys like a Jake Berger, teammates with Ryan, but obviously not, has never faced him. There are plenty of other guys on this roster that are kind of in a similar situation, but there's also some guys he's faced a couple of times, like the Brandon Nimmos of the world, the Corey Seagers of the world, the Ezekiel Duran. So, unfortunate Ryan not able to make his start, but he's still having a tremendous season, and we'll just have to wait for that next start coming up on Monday, and we'll cover how that one went on next Tuesday's show. So, just like that, quickly, we are already in here to the college sports discussion. Kind of a lot going on in the college sports world. So the morning after the College Football Playoff National Championship game, Tennessee made a move that kind of went under the radar. I would say that would be the way I would describe it, with hiring of Derek Owings. Owings was the strength and conditioning coach at Indiana, and had been with Kurt Cignetti all the way back to those days in James Madison, starting back in 2020. Owings brought some of his staffers with him, nutritionists, things like that. So, obviously, you watched during the later part of the seasons last year, and Indiana was absolutely manhandling teams in the trenches. And that was something that got Tennessee in trouble a little bit last season. You look at some of those games they lost, you could argue it was in the trenches. The games they struggled: Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia. Vanderbilt was the other loss, and that was not a game lost in the trenches. But the other three, you could argue, were. Tennessee could not run the ball against Oklahoma. Tennessee could not get anything going offensively against Alabama. And there was a big part of that Georgia game, really most of the second and third quarters, where Tennessee looked like a chicken with its head cut off and didn't know what to do. So they go out, pick up Owings, and in his first his 14-week program with the Vols, team gained a total of 867.3 pounds of muscle and lost a total of 218.1 pounds of fat. So, is that actually going to translate to anything on the field? Yet to be seen. But I will tell you one thing about this Tennessee team, and they'll be strong this year. And that's going to be a key with this team, obviously. You're going to have a young quarterback, and the best way to keep him fresh, keep him young, and this, that, and the other, is keeping him healthy, and that's keeping him upright. So the offensive line is going to have their work cut out for him this year, and I think that was kind of what went behind this this move with Tennessee and their staff picking up Indiana's strength and conditioning staff. So, again, is that a great thing? I would say so. I would think that you get stronger guys, more muscle, less fat, that would translate to wins on the field. But, again, in college sports, probably more so than any other sport, level of sport, even high school, professional, I would say being strong is having a lot of muscle, not having a lot of fat, that would translate to wins. So, kind of some sad news for fans of college football, like myself, that love those big out-of-conference games you get during the regular season, because we're losing another one today, as Florida State and Georgia have mutually agreed to cancel their home-and-home series slated for the 2027 and 2028 seasons. Trying to work out a neutral site game, but with it involving Georgia, I would be willing to bet, if I was a betting man, I'd bet the house that if that game even gets played, because we'll try to work out it. No, there's not going to be a game played. So if it even does get played, it's probably going to get played in the Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing whatsoever. It just feels like Georgia plays 8 home games, 9 home games, 10 home games a year, because they'll play the 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever they get at home, and then they'll go play 3 or 4 more games in the Georgia Dome or in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. But again, that's kind of something stupid to complain about. But and looking at it for the next couple of years, I mean, it's going to be a big season upcoming for Florida State, but the way I look at this is you may have saved them from a little bit of embarrassment. I mean, obviously, you'd love to play Georgia week 1 because they are not at their best at week 1. They're not at their best in week 7, but they get better throughout the year. You'd love to play them week 1 to get an opportunity to pick up a big win, but then you also go back and think of some Georgia years, like when they played Bo Nix in his first start at Oregon, and they boat raced them week 1. I think they did the same thing to Clemson like the year after or 2 years later, where they just absolutely 2024, yeah, it was just a couple seasons ago where they boat raced them week 1. So this may have saved Florida State from an embarrassment, or it could have saved Georgia. Kind of the same thing that happened to Alabama last year. Went into a game against Florida State that they felt confident in. But I will give Alabama some credit here, is they are actually keeping one of their big home-and-home. So props to Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Day. It's tough for me to give credit to those guys, but they're keeping their 2027 and 2028 home-and-home series. Now, Alabama has canceled to move some other series around, like the one with Oklahoma State and others, because of the way scheduling has changed. But I like it. You get 2 top programs, 2 of the best teams, probably the 2 biggest program, just name-wise, in college football, with Ohio State and Alabama over the last, at least this century. So props to both of those programs keeping that upright and moving. And as of 8 minutes ago, the Division I men's and women's basketball committees have officially voted to expand the NCAA tournament to 76 teams. Matt Norlander has reported from CBS Sports. Well, so be it, I guess. I really do think that this is not a great move for college basketball to make that move to 76 teams. It's just too much. You've had other coaches weigh in, this, that, and the other, like John Calipari, who actually said something that I really, really agree with, and I think is a great point. Because Matt Norlander did write an article that came out late last night, just talking about what some of the coaches, the big coaches in the game had kind of on their minds about the whole expansion. There's people that said, I am adamantly opposed. This doesn't move the needle at all. It should be a privilege to play in the NCAA tournament, not a right. I like that one. Obviously not going to sit here and go through. And I'll pick out some of the names. Obviously, it was Mark Few from Gonzaga that said, I'm adamantly opposed. It's totally unnecessary. It's dumbing down the regular season, which is sad. We're out here trying to generate the most interest for the regular season, and expansion doesn't help. That's where we've been struggling. Plus, the NCAA tournament unit shares. What's happening there? Because obviously, you make the tournament, you advance, you get more revenue. What is it going to cut down on revenue for some teams, or is it going to just increase the total amount? Obviously, that's why screw something up that's not broken to begin with, is the way I'll put it. It'll be the first time since 2011 that the tournament has been expanded. It went from 65 to 68 teams. The new format will inevitably lead to teams with weaker resumes being invited, watering down the competitiveness of getting into the bracket. Dan Hurley, the head coach at UConn, said, "What I think makes the tournament special is the qualification for it. You don't want the regular season to be rendered meaningless and take away from November, December, January, and February. The qualification process makes the regular season intense and pressure-packed. It should be a privilege to play in the tournament, not a right. And obviously, if it expands too much, you don't have to have a real good season to make it. That would take away from being in the tournament. Does it get too big?" That's a good point, Dan Hurley. And John Calipari also said in the article, having that being said, if we are to expand, my hope is that at least half of the spots are held for non-Power 4 teams. If they do that, we are making the decision for the right reasons. As someone who has been David and won some, and Goliath and lost some, that's what makes this tournament special. We can't afford to lose that special piece of our sport. As a Tennessee fan growing up, not a big John Calipari guy. But more and more, as I've grown up over the past 8 years, 7 years, somewhere around there, I've been a huge fan of Cal. Just with the way he's kind of dissected college sports since the whole NIL and transfer portal, because he's not switched anything up. And other than some injuries, some injury-ridden years and some poor tournament luck at Kentucky, he's kept everything the same. He recruits freshmen. He does everything the same. He'll take a guy out of the portal here and there, but he's not going after the big guys every year in the portal. He does his own thing. But he actually, I feel like, has a pretty good scope of how college sports would be the most beneficial to not only the student athletes, but the fans as well. And putting more teams in it, it doesn't help anything in my mind, but looking at it, the first 4 play-in round, currently held on Tuesday and Wednesday, the newly expanded play-in round would then feature 24 teams playing 12 games over 2 days before the winners join the other 52 teams already in the traditional first round field that initial weekend. So all this is going to do is add an extra round of 11 seeds playing 11 seeds. I will say this: I typically do try to watch the first 4 games, or what was the first 4 games, even though, and it's always really confused me why we call it the first 4, because it's the first 4 games, because it's 4 play-in games, obviously, but the final 4 is 4 teams and 2 games. But that's neither here nor there. I could complain about other things like that all year. I try to watch the first 4 every year, but it's also not something I'm watching intently. So I feel like if your team's not in it, which again, having more people, more teams is going to bring more fans, obviously, because more teams are in it. But for the most part, at least what we've seen with the direction of college sports here at least in the last 18 months, is that if you're not in a good situation, like teams that have a poor regular season, like Indiana last year, for example, did not have a great regular season, lost some games they shouldn't have lost, won some games they shouldn't have won. I mean, it goes both ways, but they declined a invitation to, I don't know if it was the CBC or the NIT tournament. They declined it. If we're going to work, we gotta fix things. How is it to say maybe let's think of a blue blood and one that would never happen. We'll throw Duke in there. What if Duke goes like 17 or let's say Duke goes 14-18 this year? Do they make the tournament? Like, is that something we really want to see? Would Duke even want to play in the tournament at that point? Obviously, to keep some streaks alive in this, that, and the other, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, are we rewarding that? I don't know. And it just feels like a short kind of tumbling slope to a point where, like those coaches were saying, the regular season doesn't matter, and the regular season is what's so much fun. You learn about these teams, and you meet these players, and you see their games, and then it all leads to a tournament of typically teams that haven't played each other yet, the best of the best, and all we're doing is putting more teams in. Now, if you want to look at percentage-wise, we're not in a bad spot yet. But, you look at we'll just go to professional sports. The NBA. Now you got 2/3, quite literally, making the playoffs. If you count the play-in, it's top 10 in each conference. There's 30 teams in the entire league, 10 from each conference. So 2/3 of the league is making the playoffs. In the NFL, what is it? 16 teams, 18 or 16 or 14 teams make the playoffs. So that's around half, if not just under half of the teams. Major League Baseball, it's kind of the same way. Was the top 6 make it? So you're getting 12 out of the 30 teams, which is a little over a third. But it just feels different in college sports when they change it, because you could look at with the college football playoff. Hey, there's a 24 team playoff for 130 some odd teams. That's about 1/6, and you could say this was 76 out of the 350 whatever D1 schools. But it doesn't feel right that we're gonna, instead of rewarding maybe like the way I worded it is like a Belmont. They're typically a very good team in the MVC, and what if they have like a 27-8 year? That's a good year. You won most of your games, but those teams, unless they win their conference tournament, get completely disregarded because I'll go pull up the records from the show on, I believe it was Tuesday, when I talked about all the teams that would have made the tournament this past year. Yeah, an 18-14 Indiana, a 18-15 Cincinnati. Should they make it in over them? Is that really better for the sport? Because obviously, if we're going to make it less exclusive, we've got to make it feel beneficial for the smaller schools. That's all I'm saying. Now, typically, a Belmont or a Lipscomb or a St. Louis, I'm just thinking of those mid-major schools, they're not going to win a national championship. No, but they can give you a really fun weekend and win games they probably shouldn't have won in the first place. VCU, having that upset win over North Carolina in the tournament, was one of the more fun tournament games last year. It wasn't like VCU ran the table. They got destroyed the next round when they played Illinois. But that one game was fun. And I feel like this is going to take away from that, and we're just going to have a really bad ACC team taking on a really bad Big Ten team in Dayton on a Tuesday night. It's not going to matter because neither of them are going to win the national championship either way. Why not put in some of the smaller conference schools? Because Cinderellas make college basketball. Now, there wasn't a crazy Cinderella this year, but it was fun learning about High Point for a couple of weeks. It's like, man, you saw St. Louis destroy Georgia. There were some hopefuls, that they got upset in the first round. Troy was a team that was looking to pull an upset. They got smacked. Siena almost upsets Duke. I mean, that would be the 16-1 game of all time. I mean, you got the Fairleigh Dickinsons and the UMBCs, but that would have been the game. And you do that. Now, I'm not saying you're taking away the 16-1 games, but that VCU North Carolina game, I believe, was a 6-11 game. and you're going to take away a VCU to throw in a Auburn that's not going to make that game much more fun to watch. I'll just go ahead and say it. And in talking about a regular season that doesn't matter, we'll talk about something that was some news that actually came out either later today or later yesterday or earlier today. Amazon is breaking into the college sports game by signing an enterprise partnership with Duke University. This comes with them streaming 3 of the Blue Devils' marquee men's basketball matchups for the upcoming season. These include Duke versus UConn, taking place in Las Vegas on November 25th, Duke versus Michigan, taking place at Madison Square Garden on December 21st, and Duke versus Gonzaga, taking place in Detroit on February 20th. I think it's great. Listen, there are some people that will complain because I need this, I need that, subscription-wise, I'll just throw the WWE fans under the bus because I throw myself in with them. But moving the premium live events, not pay-per-views, premium live events from Peacock to ESPN. But for a while, the library of all the old WrestleManias and all the old pay-per-views was still on Peacock. But to watch the current pay-per-views, you needed the ESPN direct-to-consumer, which is another $30. And to get the, watch Monday Night Raw on Netflix, you needed a Netflix subscription. I'm not one of the people that complains about that because 9 times out of 10, people that are going to watch sports either, one, have cable, and, but this wouldn't necessarily fall into that, or 2, have every streaming service that they want anyway. So I like when we're getting new people into streaming stuff because that means more games can be viewed. One of my pet peeves is, and it's not that I dislike it, it's just I hate the way it has to work, is ESPN Plus. It's a great idea. Let's get every college game streamed, this, that, and the other. But it's so hard to navigate and find. If we put more games elsewhere, it amplifies some games on maybe ESPN, on those days that those games are taking place. There's another game that now gets to take front and center stage for ESPN or for CBS or for ABC. All these people that Fox, all these people that do college basketball. It opens another time slot on one of those days to put a different premier game. Give more teams some more shouts. So I like it. Amazon right now, they do the NFL on Thursday Night Football. They do the NBA now. They've done periodic NBA games. I think they're even doing some NBA playoffs. So, they're in the game on that. Why not throw them in on college basketball? Maybe we could have a college football game. Throw an Amazon Prime game. Hey, Amazon's already got a deal with Duke. Why not sign a deal with the ACC and you have that premier Friday night game? When the ACC has those big Friday night games where we had the Louisville upset Miami and the Virginia upset Florida State, those could be on Amazon Prime Video. And I'm not against it. I think it's great. We move the college game to more platforms so you get more eyes on it. Because I think for the grand scheme of things, I think the NBA and the NFL have been quite pleased with their product from these two services. They've done a great job. It may be a slight inconvenience that it's not actually on network television or broadcast television, but everybody's most likely got a smart TV now, and you just download the Prime Video app, and it's right there. And another talking about the regular season of college basketball, the Players Era Men's Championship will now be expanding to 24 teams the upcoming season, ESPN has announced. So, the Players Era and ESPN have recently signed a multi-year agreement to be the exclusive broadcast partner of the event, moving it from the Turner, the TBS, TNT, True TV trio, where it had been the past couple of years. And to addition the change of broadcast provider from TBS, True, TNT to ESPN, the tournament will also be expanded from 18 teams to 24 teams, moving it to 2 separate weeks. I am a huge fan of this. So the week before Thanksgiving, you have the Players Era 8, and Thanksgiving week, you have the Players Era 16. So this will completely change the way that the tournament is played, where, last year, I can just do this from example because I'm a Tennessee fan. Last year, they were in the Players Era tournament. They beat Rutgers by like 25 or 30, and then they beat Houston by 7 or 8. Well, the way they do the point system in that is obviously it was margin of victory. So, Tennessee was, I think, plus 27. I'm pretty sure that's because it maxed out at 20. You couldn't beat a team, if you beat a team by 40, it counted as much. If you beat a team by 21, unfortunately. So Tennessee beat up on Rutgers and then had an upset win over Houston. And you're like, man, they've got to be in the championship. Well, with the way the things worked out, if Michigan won their game by, I think it was at least 18, and UConn won their game by, or didn't lose their game by 7, which they ended up winning, that those would be the two teams in the championship game. And while we know that Michigan and Gonzaga were two really good teams last year, and Tennessee and Kansas were not better than them, that was the third and fourth place game. I think that taking out the whole round robin aspect and just putting them in a straight bracket is awesome. And it's really going to give you a quality tournament opportunity here. So with the 8-team bracket, you will have the Florida Gators, the Kansas Jayhawks, the Houston Cougars, the West Virginia Mountaineers, the Auburn Tigers, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, the UNLV Rebels, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Listen, that's going to be tough because Florida, how good they're going to be this year. I talked about that on Tuesday. Kansas is the team I mentioned. Houston was the team I mentioned. I threw Auburn in my sneaky category. I think they can be really good. But there's 4 teams I didn't mention there with West Virginia, Rutgers, UNLV, and Notre Dame. Opportunity to make a name for yourself right there. Upset one of those teams. Now, obviously, the matchups aren't released yet, and those teams may not run into each other, so to speak, in the first round. But hey, that's what I love about brackets in November, because you'll get weird games, weird outcomes. Now, for the 16-team bracket, it is absolutely loaded. You have, the 2 teams that played in it last year, the championship last year, Michigan and Gonzaga, but you also throw Louisville in there, who is a team I was high on, St. John's, another team I was high on, as well as Tennessee. Alabama was just off my list of top teams in the SEC. I think they're going to be in that 4th spot. Miami, I'm been really high on them and Jay Lucas. Iowa State, they made us an Elite 8 last year, lost a lot, but they've been building through the portal. And TJ Otzelberger, getting him to stay in Ames was huge. Maryland, I think they're going to be on an uptick this year. TCU, I had them on my downtick side, but I still think they'll be a good team as long as Jamie Dixon's there. They're going to be good. Baylor, I mean, how long is Scott Drew going to stay out of the top 25? It felt like he built the greatest team ever and won an Addy in 2021, and really haven't had much of a pulse since then. Had a couple of good years, but it's been slow. Texas Tech, I did have them on the downtick, but I think they'll be good. Oregon feels like they're in this every year, and sometimes they pick up some big wins in it. San Diego State as well, Kansas State, and Creighton, the other teams involved in that 16-team bracket. I'll tell you, the week before Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving week, Feast Week, it's going to be fun, because now this is going to be the precipice of Feast Week on ESPN. It used to be the Maui Invitational. Well, Maui can't pay teams millions of dollars in NIL money to come play for them for a week, so it's become the Players' Era. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Battle for Atlantis or the Maui Invitational or any of those other tournaments that go on around that week. It's just that this is one that gets teams that's going to get players and teams paid. So obviously the players and the teams want to play in it, and ESPN's done a smart job and just realized that's where all the teams were going, because nobody was watching Feast Week last summer or last fall. I can tell you that. Everybody had their eye on the Players' Era, and TBS, TNT, whoever, I don't remember the exact station, but it may have been both of them, did an awesome job covering that tournament last year. But it's the big names, the big teams, so they deserve a big TV contract, and they're going to ESPN. And honestly, folks, I think that may be everything today. Not a whole lot going on right now. We obviously had the expansion to 76 teams. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But it's kind of a quiet time for college sports. We've got college baseball going on, obviously. And we'll look at the weekend slate for college baseball. But it does feel kind of slow right now, because there's not a whole lot of big narratives coming in out of spring training or spring practice for football. I've been talking a lot about college basketball lately, because that's been the recent moves. And I kind of did the same about college football back around November and January, or December and January. But it does feel like some of the more anticipated times of the year in college sports are either right there in the heart of the season, towards the end of the season when you start getting championship games and stuff like that, and right after with the transfer portal. So we'll look at college baseball for the weekend, starting off first in the SEC. If I can find the SEC. All right, so I think there's a ranked team in at least every series except one. Alabama going on the road to take on South Carolina. That one will be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series, as well as LSU going on the road to take on Georgia at Foley Field. Hey, the Bulldogs 38-11, good for 5th in the country. Texas making a road trip to Knoxville this weekend. The number 4 Longhorns at 36-10 on the season, taking on the Volunteers 32-17. That's going to be a pivotal SEC series because Tennessee, who is Tennessee? They win 2 out of 3 against a very good Alabama team 2 weeks ago, and then lose 2 out of 3 to a very suspect Kentucky team last weekend. And speaking of that suspect Kentucky team, they're going on the road to Condren Family Ballpark in Gainesville to take on the 21st ranked Florida Gators. One of our 3 ranked on ranked matchups. We got number 24 Oklahoma going on the road to Fayetteville to take on the Hogs in an old Southwest Conference matchup. Texas A&M and Ole Miss will be doing battle at Swayze Field in Oxford. And our last of the ranked on ranked matchups, we have Auburn at Mississippi State. And again, that game still to be announced on time. And then our only ranked versus unranked matchup is Vanderbilt going on the road to take on Missouri. That game in Columbia, Missouri at Taylor Stadium. So looking elsewhere in the top 25 for college baseball for this upcoming weekend, we've got Southern Miss going on the road to take on James Madison. JMU's had a bit of a slow year, but hey, Southern Miss, they're good. I think a very beatable team in the Sun Belt. Given that their record outside the Sun Belt is 18-6 and it's 16-8 in conference. So Pitt is going on the road to take on number 2 North Carolina, 37-9 on the year. Tar Heels are looking great. Cal at Virginia, that one will be taking place in Charlottesville. Florida State at Clemson, going to be a great matchup. I get Clemson's had a really down year, but Eric Bakich is a great coach, and Florida State's been a little down since they lost Miles Kelly, the big slugger. Iowa and Nebraska, that should be a fun one going on at Hawks Field. There at Haymet Park in Nebraska and Lincoln. Duke at Georgia Tech should be a fun one. Kansas and West Virginia, we got a top 15 matchup going on in the Big 12. That one taking place in Kansas, and man, it feels really, really strange to say number 7 Kansas, and we're talking about college baseball. But they're 37-12, and the Big 10 or the Big 12 has actually been really good this year across the line. I mean, they've got some good teams. They've had some surprises, definitely. Like UCF has been a really good team this year. Number 13 Oregon, number 1 UCLA, finally a team with a pulse playing the Bruins. That was the one thing that kind of crept in the back of my mind, thinking of across all sports when you invite UCLA and Oregon and USC and Washington to the Big Ten. Well, typically, UCLA, USC, and Oregon are pretty good at baseball. Well, those West Coast schools are good at baseball. You have Oregon State, who's an independent right now at number 10, because the Pac-2 or the Pac-12 is not a thing anymore. Is UCLA's 24-0 in conference play? And we can take a look at their schedule, looking at their conference games. Ohio State, 11-1, 19-6, 10-7. Michigan, 10-5, 2-0, 7-2. Maryland, 12-2, 8-3, 14-4. Iowa, who you'd think is a pretty good team in the Big Ten, 5-2, 19-0, 14-6. USC, they're right down the road, 12-4, 9-8, 10-4. They have not lost a conference game. I'll just put it that way. The games they have lost to are very confusing. You see San Diego on a Sunday, San Diego State in a midweek game. Then they won like 20-something in a row. They go all the way from February 24th to April 14th without losing. And then they lose to UC Santa Barbara 4-0, and then a loss to Sacramento State 9-6, a series they almost lost. And they've got Oregon and Washington left. I mean, there's a very good chance they go 30-0 in conference play, which I just find insane. And hey, Oregon's 17-7 in conference play. Elsewhere in college baseball, we've got number 16 Arizona State hosting a weekend series against Oklahoma State. Nevada coming in to play USC. And Old Dominion going on the road to take on number 8 Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt. That one in Conway, so another home series for Coastal Carolina. And kind of looking at how things are shaping up right now for some of those SEC teams, Tennessee needs a big win this weekend. I'll just go ahead and say it. If they want any dream of getting to sniff a host, well, if you want to get a chance to host, you got to win today. Or you got to win this weekend. You got to almost sweep. Now, you're unranked. They're number 4. I think 2 out of 3 is good. But, you know, what are you getting from that? And here's a fun little story to end it on. Brian Kelly, and this is from On3, so this is a real story. Brian Kelly revealed how AI is helping him prepare for his next coaching job. Quote, every day I'm trying to do my due diligence using cloud and AI, asking questions to build some of those answers that I think can be helpful for me as I get in front of an athletic director. Well, as long as you don't get them to one of their best spots in school history and then leave them in the middle of the night, I think you should be fine. I mean, look at the way he left every school he's been at. Central Michigan, got them to their highest high, left for Cincinnati. Got Cincinnati to unreachable levels that you thought at Cincinnati, leaves for Notre Dame. Gets Notre Dame is to a consistent, really good team. Because if you remember the early 2000s, post Lou Holtz, and you could go a couple years after post Lou Holtz, but post Lou Holtz to pre-Brian Kelly Notre Dame wasn't what they are now. He built a program at Notre Dame and got them to the national championship once, got them to the playoff another couple of times, but couldn't get over the hump, so he went to LSU to try to take the easy way out. Couldn't get over the hump there when he quite literally beat Alabama in his first year and made it to the SEC championship game. And then Nick Saban retired. So, listen, Brian Kelly put himself in a bad spot and didn't have a great team built last year, and unfortunately lost to Vanderbilt, and he got canned. It's just kind of how it goes. Do I think Brian Kelly... honestly, I thought he had a pretty good chance to get the Penn State job. But honestly, with as many jobs opened up, because last year was one of the crazier coaching cycles I can remember in my time. If he wasn't picked up in that one, it might be a while before he's picked up in another one. I'll just put it that way. So that will do it for this Thursday edition of the Mark My Words Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we will be back on sometime next week, I believe Tuesday, and we'll get you caught up on everything going on in the world of college sports, local sports, and professional sports here on the X Sports Network. So have a good day, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.